My name is Don K. Preston. I am the president of Preterist Research Institute of Ardmore, Oklahoma. Now, those of you familiar know that I'm normally in my other office, and I film with camera and computer and what have you. Well, for the last 6 days, I've been without lights in that office. I was assured yesterday that I will have lights tomorrow. Okay. In the meantime, I'm back doing this with my little Logitech minicam here. And thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate that. We are continuing our study of the resurrection of 1 Corinthians chapter 15. And we've been examining that in light of Romans chapter 8. Now, in Romans 8, Paul is anticipating the redemption of creation. In both amillennialism and postmillennialism, there is the belief that at the so-called end of time, at the coming of Christ out of heaven, the earth will be completely renovated. We will have a restored Edenic physical creation here on earth, a new earth. I've been sharing with you the fact that the doctrine of the new creation is from the Old Testament. Remember, Paul said he didn't teach anything that was not found in the Old Testament. His doctrine of the resurrection was from Moses, the law, and the prophets, Acts 24:14 and following, Acts 26:21 and following. So when we think about resurrection, the new heaven, and the new earth, we absolutely must consider, what does the Old Testament have to say about that? Well, I shared with you yesterday the beginning of a study of Isaiah 65. Isaiah 65 is one of the foundational biblical texts for the new heaven and the new earth. I shared with you that Isaiah 65, 1 and 2 predicted the time in which God would call to him a people that had never known him, a people that had never been called by his name. That can only mean pagan Gentiles. Number two, he would call those people to him as a result of Israel's rejection of his call to them. In other words, because Israel would refuse the call, the gospel call, if you please, God would turn to the pagans. Now, what I shared with you yesterday was Paul quoted those two verses, Isaiah 65, 1 and 2, in Romans 10, 20 and 21, and applied them specifically, emphatically, and undeniably to his mission, and pointed out Israel of his day was being rebellious and unbelieving. They were rejecting the call. And number two, as a result of that, he, Paul, had been appointed to call the Gentiles, the nations, to God. Now notice that Isaiah 65 continues this discussion and promises that at this time of the calling of the Gentiles, this time of Israel's rejection, something else would go on. I'm going to begin reading Isaiah 65, 8 and following. As the new wine is found in the cluster, and one says, do not destroy it all, because there is a blessing in it, so will I do for my servant's sake, that I may not destroy them all. I will bring forth descendants from Jacob and from Judah, and heir of my mountains. My elect shall inherit it. My servants shall dwell there. Sharon shall be a fold of flocks, and the valley of Achor, a place of herds to lie down for my people who have sought me. Now look at the irony here. He says Israel did not respond to his call. But the people who had never been called by his name, the people who had never called on him before, are now going to call on him. And along with Israel, they are going to be saved. I want you to notice the promise of the salvation of the remnant. Now keep in mind, folks, all of this is going to lead directly into the promise of the new heaven and the new earth. This is not superfluous, it's not disjointed, and it's not disconnected from the promise of the new heaven and the new earth, as we shall see as we continue. Okay, so here is Isaiah, here is Yahweh predicting the time in which those who had never called on the Lord would call on him and be accepted. But now the Lord is also saying that the remnant of Israel would be saved. Well, once again, we go to Paul. In Romans chapter 9 through 11, Paul discusses the salvation of the remnant. He quotes from Isaiah chapter 10. He quotes from, he alludes to numerous passages in Isaiah, and I suggest he's drawing from Isaiah chapter 65. The salvation of the remnant was to be a last day's reality, and it was the salvation of the remnant that would lead directly into the new creation. Now notice what the Lord says. I will bring forth descendants from Jacob, from Judah, and heir of my mountains. My elect shall inherit it. It what? The it is the promised land, as it were. It's the new creation. So here we have the promise of the salvation of the remnant, the salvation of the elect, the salvation of those who had never called on the Lord before, but now would call on the Lord and be called by his name. And the Lord says, my elect shall inherit this new creation, this promised land. Well, you got to catch this. In Romans 9, 10, and 11, as I've just indicated, Paul quotes from Isaiah about the predictions of the salvation of the remnant in the last days. And guess what? The salvation of the remnant was taking place in Paul's day. And oh, by the way, let me point out that the salvation of the remnant would bring in the consummation of Israel's covenant history. And in Romans 9:28, the Lord said, a short work will I make on the earth. God promised that the last days salvation of the remnant would not be a drawn-out, protracted, extended event. The Lord said he would make a short work. It would not be delayed. Well, you know, we have former preterists, by the way, who are telling us, oh, yeah, the salvation of the remnant is still going on. So the salvation of the remnant has been protracted, extended, and delayed now for 2,000 years, and it's not consummated yet, which means Israel's covenant history has not come to its end. And if Israel's covenant history has not been brought to an end, then the new covenant has not been fully consummated, fully perfected, fully put in place. The desperation of former preterists is just stunning. But watch this. Boy, this is powerful. And by the way, I did a 7-part audio lesson series on this very thing in Romans chapter 11, verse 7, in discussing the salvation of the remnant. Okay? Which is the time of salvation. It would be consummated at the day of the Lord. Paul says, Israel has not obtained that which she sought, but, catch the power of this, the elect has obtained it, and the rest were blinded. Folks, that's Isaiah 65. Who would be saved according to Isaiah 65? Not the corporate body, but the body of the elect. Who would inherit Israel's promises? Not the whole nation, but the remnant. What was the hope of Israel? The new creation. What does Paul say? Israel has not obtained, but the elect has. You see, the elect were already entering into the new creation. Remember what Paul said in 2 Corinthians 5:17? If any man be in Christ, he is a new creation. Old things are passed away. Behold, all things are become new. That's a direct echo. That's a direct echo of the Old Testament promises. Now, we have to seriously consider, if the remnant was already entering into the new creation, as Paul said they were, once again, what kind of new creation was it? Was it a recreated physical heaven and earth? Pretty patently not. Was it animals that were no longer eating animals? Absolutely not. It was a spiritual, covenantal, new creation. Now look, folks, here is the fundamental text in the Old Testament for the promise of the new heaven and new earth. Here is Paul commenting, giving his midrash, his commentary on Isaiah 65, said it was being fulfilled in his day, in his time, even in his ministry, but it's absolutely irrefutably true that what Paul said in regard to the new creation of Isaiah was absolutely not being fulfilled in any kind of material promise of the resurrection. It was not the promise in the new covenant, heaven and earth, of Jesus Christ. See you on the flip side.